One of the questions that we face, and this is not just in a homeschooling context, but just as a frame of reference, sometimes one parent will want to homeschool, and the other parent will not necessarily be with that, right? So it's hard to form that mission together.
Right.
What are some of the ways, and that happens with family missions all the time. Maybe the mom has certain beliefs and the dad has other beliefs, and that's hard to mesh, right? It's the old, don't marry someone who's not of your religion or whatever.
Right, I was raised this way, you were raised that way. My family did it this way, and your family did it that way.
What's that old story where you cut off the end of the roast and put it in the pot, right?
Right.
And it's not meshing. What are some of the ways, if you really feel like this is the way for your family, how do you overcome that? That's a big question.
It's a huge question. The strategic approach I use is called the Our Way plan. Okay? That the Our Way plan is that we're not going to do it the way I was raised. We're not going to do it the way you were raised. We're not going to do it the way I think it should be done. We're not going to do it the way you think it should be done. We've got to figure out what our way is.
Right.
Okay? And this is on the one hand really obvious, but it is so hard for people to get to. So hard for people to get to. Now, when I say that, the best answer is for everyone to do this early. So it's kind of like the Our Way plan is the same thing as a football team's playbook. It's the same thing as a contractor's blueprint for a house.
Right.
Okay? It's the same thing as a policy and procedure manual for a company or a business plan or a marketing plan. Before you spend any dollars on the marketing, you're going to have the plan first. Yeah. Before you even dig one hole on that ground, you're going to have that blueprint completely laid out. Mm-hmm. And I've had a lot of people, when I do these Our Way plans, we go over 10 specific areas, and we get really detailed and how we're going to manage conflict with ourselves as a couple, how we're going to deal with the parenting issues, how we're going to deal with intimacy, how we're going to deal with religion and spirituality, how we're going to deal with our extended family and in-laws, all these different areas. And I've had a lot of people say, this seems like a lot of work. And I'm going to say, it really shouldn't be this hard. And why do we have to take all this time and effort on this? And I'm like, you know what? It's so funny that we have that argument in the single most important relationships of our entire lives, that people give me this argument, yet I guarantee when they go to buy a house, they want every 16th of an inch accounted for.
Right.
And those blueprints account for every single detail, an excruciating detail, and we count that as a good thing.
And so much of that is communication, right? So much of creating a marketing plan isn't because the marketers don't know how to create the plan. It's because they need to be able to communicate it to everyone else and to help everyone else drink the Kool-Aid, as it were.
Absolutely, and I think
it's a
marketing.
Horrible metaphor, probably. But.
No, well, we don't want that outcome.
Right.
But we do want the buy-in.
Right.
And I think marketing is another one of my favorite analogies that I use in the work that I do. Is that it's not enough to just have a great concept or to have a great set of discipline rules to follow, because a lot of them are fine. People say, well, should we use this method or that method? Right. I don't really care, to tell you the truth. As long as we're not, abusing or neglecting our kids. There are so many styles of parenting that are so functional and work so great. What I care is that if we don't have an Our Way plan, my rule for the Our Way plan is it's our way or it doesn't play. And so people will tell me, well, in my family we did it this way. And I say, well, then you know what? Here's your solution. Get a divorce, move back in with your family, and you won't have that problem.
That's horrible advice from your marriage counselor.
It is horrible. It's a horrible question. It's a horrible premise to begin with, though. At the beginning of, well, in my family we did it this way. That's a horrible premise to begin with.
Right. Because
you left that family for a reason. Maybe it was a good reason because you're just ready to move on and do your own thing, or maybe those were horrible, crazy people that you were so glad that you left.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now another common argument I'll get, another horrible premise we'll start with, is, well, that's just not the way I am. That's just not how I do things. And my solution to that is very similar. We'll get a divorce, buy a mirror, marry the mirror, and you'll never have an argument again. Well, I think it should be this way. Really? I do too. You're so smart. No, you're so smart. And you never have that argument ever again.
Right.
But if that's not, if either one of those are horrible solutions that we don't want, then we're left with, how do we actually really communicate and truly negotiate this process? And so on the surface, it's just a 3-column sheet. Okay, this is the actual practice. And I write his way over here, her way over here, and in the middle is our way. Right. Now, on the one hand, that's very simple and basic But the reason it fails in most circumstances is when people will do their negotiated settlements that they'll get to with how we're going to do our parenting, is that they didn't really buy into it.
Right. It was one of these old. It was a compromise, or it was kind of a fine. Do it however you want.
Yeah.
Fine. That'll be our way.
Our way. Yep. We'll see how well that works, won't we? Yeah. And so I want to create real buy-in. And so even though the best solution is for people to do this early on, and it still is the best solution. I have a lot of couples who do that early on, but the majority is they don't. The majority is they've been parenting or relating this way in their couple relationship for the past 10 years like this, and they've got 10 years of entrenched behaviors that aren't working.
Right.
And
I
so,
guess it's the same with kids, right? I mean, you can make a similar agreement with them as you go.
Absolutely. And so we can still do the Our Way plan,
right?
but we have to have some really core assumptions before we even go into the negotiations. And the core assumptions are, and this is where we get into where we're actually living to communicate well with each other. So I teach my couples how to listen really deeply to what the person is saying, and to the point where we learn to shut up the noise in our mind. We learn to shut up all the interruptions that we do, shut up the mind, shut up the interrupting, but then open up the body and really get into an engaged, active listening process.
What did you say?
Yeah. But I'm bumped. And with a core assumption that if you're my parenting partner, if you're my spouse, and you're saying this is how you think it should be done, then I'm going to start with a core assumption that if it's coming out of your mouth, it's important. Period. It has nothing to do with whether I agree with it or not. If it's coming out of your mouth as a human being, and if I believe, going back to our belief system, that you deserve to be treated with dignity and compassion and respect just because you're either a human being or a divine being or both.
Right.
Then that's going to dictate how I treat what you're saying. And if it's coming out of the only reason you're taking the time, Ben, as a dad, to explain something to Tammy as a wife, the only reason you're taking the time to even express it and an emotion into actual verbal language is because it's important to you.
Right.
And you may be just nuts and completely an idiot with what you're saying. Tammy may be thinking that. She's her, you know.
She wouldn't be completely off track.
You know, and you might be just completely wrong. But the fact is, it's still important to you.
Right.
And so I have to start with that assumption and validate. Not a surface level validation, well, you're entitled to your opinion. We'll just have to agree to disagree. No. But really, wow, that really matters to you.
Mm-hmm.
Let's really tell me more. Not, okay, that matters to you, but let me tell you what I think on my side.
Right.
No. That matters to you? Well, tell me why that matters to you.
Yeah,
And I'm going to take careful notes and explain to me, and what else? And instead of, well, yeah, but interruptions, as soon as you're done talking, I'm not going to start talking. I'm going to say, but what else? What else am I missing? I think this is where you're coming from. Help me really understand. And I still haven't even explained one side of my yet, and I still disagree with you 100%. Even some of the things you said to me have actually totally ticked me off, and I'm angry. But I'm still, tell me more. What else? Tell me more. Very few people get listened to that way. And then we get her side listed out like that. And then we get his side listed out. I can get one topic. You can take us sometimes 3 or 4 sessions just to get people to learn how to shut up long enough to really listen that deeply and that respectfully. But then when we feel like we really understand her and we really understand him, then we can start looking at why these things matter, and then we can start going, you know what, well, I didn't understand that before. That's what I'll frequently hear with couples. Because they've never taken this long of a process to really get to understanding, because they're always interrupting each other. And they go, you know, now that I see why that matters to you that much, I think I can do that. I'm okay with that. And it's that kind of negotiation of I can give this to you, not I'm giving in, not I'm giving up my position, but it's more of a true giving. I can give this to you. Yeah, I think we could go there. I really wanted it this way, but now that I understand why this matters to you so much, yeah, we can do it that way. Or maybe we can do a kind of a 50-50 on this, but I can really go 50-50 and really support it.
Right.
As opposed to begrudgingly support it.